Hello, students. In this unit, we are going to learn about short story. The short story is crafted from its own right. Short stories makes use of a plot, resonance, and other dynamic components as in a novel, but typically to a lesser degree. As we discussed in the last unit, novel is comprehensively large, whereas in short story is lesser degree. So when the short story is largely distinct from the novel, or a short novel, authors generally draw from a common pool of literary techniques. The short story is sometimes referred to as a genre. Determining what exactly defines a short story has been recurrently problematic. However, a classic definition of a short story is that one should be able to read it in one sitting. A point must notably made in Edgar Allan Poe's essay, The Philosopher of Composition. It describes the purpose of a short story as the jolly art of making something very bright and moving. It may be horrible or pathetic or funny or profoundly illuminating, having only this essential that it should take from 15 to 50 minutes to read aloud. So, precisely a short story only of a minimal time period. And according to William Faulkner, a short story is a character driven, and a writer's job is to trot along behind him with a paper and pencil, trying to keep up long enough to put down what he says and does. So, some authors have argued that a short story must have a strict form, but however, Somerset Maugham thought that short story must have a definite design, which includes a point of departure, a climax, a point of test, and in other words, it must have a plot. So, short story, as I said earlier, it's a brief fictional prose narrative that is shorter than a novel, and it is usually deals with only a few characters. And now coming back to themes of short story, it is simply its meaning. So it is the main idea explored in the story by writer. It answers the question of what did you learn about the human condition or human nature through this short story. So, for instance, in Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin, the theme is about a woman who has lost her freedom and identity to her husband and marriage. And in another short story, To Build a Fire by Jack London, the theme is about a protagonist who freezes to death because he panics and is unable to solve the problem. In another short story, Ernest Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants, the theme is about an unplanned pregnancy and the decision to abort the pregnancy. So, the meaning of a story can be implied, explicitly suggested, or embodied in the story. So that these plot becomes the crux of the story. Sometimes a writer crafts a story with a central idea in which the theme is easy to identify and understand, such as love, hatred, or even death. So often, though, writers craft stories in which the theme is implied, it cannot be easily identified. So the theme can often be understood only in the plot of a story, through the characters of a story, or by understanding the conflict and situation that revolves around the characters. So the reader must analyze the story to determine its theme. So here's some several suggestions to identify the short story and to understand the main conflict of the short story. In Hills Like a White Elephant, Hemingway writes about unplanned pregnancy and the need for an abortion, as I said earlier. So the theme is implied through a conversation between the man and his girlfriend. So through the characters, we are coming to know about what the plot is. So understand the epiphany. Usually, you can see the theme of a story once you understand the epiphany. What does the protagonist learn? What is the revelation? So, two common themes are or will be good versus evil. And another is that the human heart cannot endure the burden of guilt. These will be the most common themes in any short stories or any story. So, another is that we have a dark side, alter ego, and that we can do wicked things and commit evil acts. So, sometimes the theme is suggested in the title itself. For instance, in Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants, we understand that white elephant is a symbol for something that is not wanted. In Susan Maynard's Lust, we quickly understand that the story is about lust or sex. So look for key phrases or sentences, and sometimes the writer reveals the theme by repeating symbols or motifs in the story. A common way to understand the theme of the story is by identifying the big idea, meaning what the story is about, whether it is about love, whether it is about death, or it is about crime, or abortion, or whether it is about lust, human nature, is it about divorce, abuse, and so forth. So the theme of a story can sometimes be understood by its setting. Where does the story take place? What historical time frame this particular story is happening? Is there some social change occurred during this period? All these things plays an important role in identifying the theme of the story. Now, crafting a short story with a theme, most writers begin with a topic such as misadventure or about love or death. So sometimes the writer explicitly suggests the theme by embodying it in the short story. And other times, the writer suggests a theme through, as I said earlier, it might be a setting, it might be a plot, or it might be some sort of conflict. So the reader must decipher the theme. Sometimes the writer begins writing without any particular theme in mind. The theme emerges as the writer writes the story. So other times the writer has a particular topic and the theme before he or she even began writing the short story. So the theme is the shared meaning. It is a universal truth and a lesson learned or an epiphany of that story. So the writer writes about the theme by selecting a particular topic or a story idea and writing a short story. Now, the writer has many ways to find out a story idea or a theme for a short story. For example, free writing, keeping a notebook, writing a short story based on a newspaper or a magazine article, writing a short story about what he has seen or observed. He or she might write a short story based on a personal experience, or he or she might be writing a story based from memory, writing a story from a photograph. He or she might be writing a story about the human condition or a human nature, or even about a story about from what you see or hear or read in the pop culture, such as movies, from the songs, social medias. So from all these things, an idea can be brought about. So one of the marvelous aspects of writing short fiction is that the writer can make up the details once he or she has the story idea and theme. So by use of imagination, memories of true events, his or creative spirit, he or she will be able to produce a perfect short story. That is why short fiction is one of the most popular forms of creative writing. So once you start reading short fiction, you will discover that short fiction has many themes that are repeated, such as love and hate, crime and punishment, revenge, the difficulties of old age, the oppression of marriage. All these themes are. And the writer can explicitly write about the theme to the story idea, or the writer can implicitly suggest the theme through all these characters also. Now let us come back to the examples of literary themes. Theme in literature is a topic we have dived into before. So every story, as I said, will have a plot and also it will have its own themes. So whether they are consciously explored or simmering under the surface, the exploration of different themes adds depth and layers to any story, especially if those themes are universal. Some of the universal themes are love, death, good versus evil, coming of age, power and corruption, and survival, courage and heroism, and prejudice, individual versus society, war, and all these are universal themes that can be found in most of the short stories. Now, what is the purpose of a short story? The main purpose of a short story is to enable the reader to picture in their mind the images which the writer paints. So, consequently, more demands are made on the reader. Since words are strictly limited, character must be created very quickly and they should be very expressive. It is for this reason that the writer uses a plunge technique. So, short stories are self contained works of prose fiction whose function is to impart a moral, capture a moment, or to evoke a certain mood. So, short stories are often more focused as well as their elements within plot, character, pacing, story structure, and so on must work together towards this common goal. Now, there are 5 steps to writing inspirational stories. The first thing is cultivate empathy. The author should cultivate empathy. Before writing inspirational stories, you need to have strong empathy in how people will feel when they are reading a particular sentence. The second thing is to create relatable characters and ideas. That is, when the readers are reading the story, they should be able to relate the characters or the story that is happening with them, with their personal lives. Thirdly, the author should deliver the struggle positively. He or she should not portray in a negative manner, but positively have to deliver the struggle that is happening to the characters. And then there should be hope. He or she should deliver hope through this story and conclude with the tips of how they should progress in their life. So, short stories provide historical, social, and literary context, and they are just as effective as novels at providing important historical and social context. The only thing is, short stories will be very brief compared to the novels. And pairing short stories with the history unit is a very great idea, but however, the short story is concerned with a single effect conveyed in only one of few significant episodes or scenes. The form encourages economy of setting, concise narrative, and the omission of a complex plot. It will be very simple. The short stories will have very simple plot, whereas novels will have a complex plot. And character is disclosed in action and dramatic encounter, but is seldom fully developed. So they are the true masters at combining the 5 key elements that go into every great short story: character, setting, conflict, plot, and as well as theme. Thank you.